All right, let's get this started. Oh my God. Oh, almost lost one, you guys. I got my stuffy support system back here, as you can see. So this is gonna be a little bit different of a video than I really intended to post. I do have my laptop here. We do have an outline. We do have a script because I have a lot to say in this video. I'm currently on day 4 of 4 of my snow day weekend because it's currently January 26th. If you live in the Northeast, you already know we just got that massive snowstorm. If I'm being quite honest, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be, at least here in Virginia where I'm at. So praise the gods. I had a few other video ideas that I wanted to do next, but I feel like I needed to do this one first. One, I've just had it floating around in my head for a few weeks. This is something I've been thinking about making a video on. And I feel like right now is as good of time as any to put it out there, honestly, because given the state of the world and the current religious cult that has essentially taken over my country's government. Like, let's be real here, okay? It's just one sector of Christianity that's like dominating the sphere right now, that's kind of controlling society, I feel like, or at least attempting to invoke some kind of control over society to like enact their beliefs as law. And from what I've observed on social media especially, I know that it's also kind of growing in the influencer sphere with these like Christian influencers and people kind of pushing like trad wife ideologies and things of that vein. And just to be transparent, these are all ideologies I was raised in. I have talked about it briefly on this channel. I did come from a very Christian family. I came from an evangelical Christian family for the most part, is what I was primarily raised as. I'll get into my whole background and everything here in a bit, but just primarily came from a very evangelical Christian background. But I'm blessed to sit here and say to you all that I have escaped that cult. Yes, I am going to be referring to them as a cult in this video because I do consider them to be a cult. I mean, let's be real. What else do you call a group of people that requires you to change everything about yourself, the way you look, the way you think, the way you act, in accordance with everything they believe is correct to appease some sky daddy god that they revere, who were supposedly still waiting to come and snap us out of existence a la Thanos in Infinity War. If you're new to this channel, a brief introduction. My name is Maddie. I use she, they pronouns, and as of the past 6 months, I have actually been a practicing Hellenic polytheist, which in a phrase just means I worship the Greek gods. I need to keep this in my lap so I don't have to look off to the side, but like I like to use both my hands when I talk, if you couldn't tell. Yeah, only for the last 6 months, very baby to the religion, but it has been one of the most joyous, rewarding paths I have ever been on personally in my spiritual life. And I suppose my reason for sharing this with you guys is just to remind you that there's more out there than just Christianity. There's more than one way to reach divinity, to reach fulfillment and enlightenment. And the best part is, not all of these paths require you to join a group of fear-mongering, hate speech spewing assholes that like to hide behind their god as an excuse to carry out those hateful, incredibly dangerous ideologies that are literally the reason people are dying right now. I also want to give a shout out to the AnnMaddox and AnnMaddox here on YouTube. They both inspired me to make this video, actually. Taylor and her husband Drew on the AnnMaddox channel, they both came from very extreme forms of Christianity like me. I've very much been enjoying watching them on my long weekend. I love listening to their commentary. They are kind of staying up to date with what's going on in the realm of evangelical Christianity. It's really fun to watch, actually. As an ex-evangelical, I really enjoy their commentary, and it's fun to just laugh at some of those people who just really need help at the end of the day. I think they need some therapy, but they think that's demonic, so can't help you there, I guess. And then AnnMaddox is just a fucking epic witch, man. Like, she is so stand on business, like means what she says, and is so serious about her beliefs and her activism. It's honestly so fucking inspiring for me. It encourages me to continue speaking out to the best of my ability without getting my channel flagged. Because she does live in the UK, so I don't really know if she has a greater risk right now than I do, but we're gonna keep talking about it, all right? Fuck 'em. She actually started making her own versions of these reaction videos. She actually credited the AnnMaddox with inspiring her as well. So like full circle, we're all just inspiring each other, you know? But she was doing like her own kind of like witchy one where she was reacting to ex-witches who converted to Christianity. And she did make the passing comment in one of them that was like, we really need some like ex-Christians who are now witches and pagans where they share their own testimony. Well, here I am, so let's get started. I've got a lot to say, so buckle up, grab a snack, and prepare yourselves because we are going back to youth group for a moment. So just going back to my early days, I was pretty much raised in the church from birth. In my childhood years, I was raised predominantly Catholic because my father was Catholic and he was a little more active than my mother in my childhood with going to church. I don't really know. She just never really went to church. I don't even really remember if my mother ever went to church with us because she identified as a Baptist, so she wouldn't go to Catholic church with us, I don't think. I had a very divided household religiously. Actually, around the time they got divorced, I think is when my father went behind my mother's back and baptized my sister and I as Catholic. Bold move on his part, but he was a military man. Then the divorce happened, and on the weeks we were with him, we would go to church with him on Sundays, and we were just raised Catholic from childhood. Up until we moved to Oklahoma in, I don't remember what year it was actually, I'll put it on the screen, but it was the summer before my 7th grade year when we moved to Oklahoma, and that is when my mother gained permanent custody of us, so we were now being primarily raised by her. And honestly, I don't really remember too much of growing up in the Catholic faith. I mean, like, outside of just like, you know, the ritual aspect of it, if I'm gonna be quite honest. Well, I don't agree with the Catholic Church. I do very much love a good ritual. Ritual is... I love commemorating something with a ritual, so I do quite enjoy Catholic ritual. I do also very much enjoy Catholic architecture. You do know how to build a building, I guess. At the time, it was just me, my sister, and my mother living in the house together. She did not start going back to church until I was a freshman or sophomore in high school. It was in those years. I want to say it was maybe mid-freshman year. She was saved, she rededicated, she just had this whole spiritual awakening, and it was just like, oh my God, the best thing since sliced bread. It was the new house rule. We had to go to church with her twice a week. We had to go Sunday mornings and Wednesday night. She was in fact going to a Southern Baptist evangelical church. Oh my gosh, that church did some damage. And when I say she drug us, me in particular, literally kicking and screaming. Like, it's insane how actually that in turn made me such an angry person. Like, I was such an angry teenager at this time, honestly. Like, I fought that fight so damn hard, you guys. At the time, because this was my freshman year of high school, I was in my first queer relationship. I was in a relationship with a girl. We were closeted, we weren't open about it. I think people kind of knew, but like we weren't gonna like say anything about it. Definitely for the sake of our families not finding out, we were trying to like, you know, keep it on the down low. Oh my God, like when I say kicking and screaming, you guys, like I put up such a fight. Like oh my God, I have to commend myself. Like honestly, I'm very much a fan of like working with parts and archetypes right now as a person and like in my personal therapy practice. And the angry teenager is a part of me that I've definitely identified that likes to get activated and come to the surface when I get very like irrationally angry. And I've identified that angry teenager part of me to be this person that I was when I was just actively trying to fight against my mom taking me to church. I was gay at the time. At the time I believed I was just a lesbian. I'm bisexual now, but you know, at the time I was just identifying as gay and being forced to go and listen to all these fucking sermons about how like everything that I was wrong. And I knew in my mind, I was like, this is wrong. Like, I hate this. Like, I don't agree with any of this, but you know, I'm in high school. I'm in my mother's house. I don't have any say. I have to go. So she drags us every week, sat in the back of the youth group, like literally like this, you guys. And I had the bitchiest face, you guys. I was literally just sitting there like this. I don't even think I stood for the worship songs. Like in the beginning of youth group when they like do worship and everything, I'm pretty sure I sat down. Like I did not stand up. I remember my youth pastor at the time telling my mom later that he was really worried he was not gonna be able to get to me. Like he literally thought they were not gonna be able to crack me. Like I was actually the thorn in the side of the church that they were never gonna get to. And you know what? I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of myself for the fight that I put up. Unfortunately, I did get worn down as time went on because my mother, you know, she joined the leadership on the church. She was one of the like ladies that sat at the front desk and like greeted people as they came in. Like it just became part of her personality and who she was. So it was not going away anytime soon. It was not a phase for her. So I did eventually kind of fall prey to the brainwashing. I fell prey to the guilt tripping and everything that I was inherently being just offensive to God and that I was just gonna go to hell because I couldn't even really tell you like what, because I'm just a girl? Like I'm just a girl and I like girls. Like, okay. It was, yeah. And I remember it being the summer before my junior year in high school. So again, my mom had primary custody of my sister and I, but over summer break, I had to go to my father's house in Kentucky. My dad had moved to Kentucky, so we had a very long car ride. They did not fly us. We drove like, I think it was like a 10-hour drive. It was like a 10-hour drive and we met in the halfway point in or around Nashville, I think. So that summer, on the way back to my mother's house, my dad had already dropped us off at the halfway point. By this time, my sister had also already rededicated her life to Christ. She had become saved, so my sister was already a Christian. And so I spent 5 hours in the car with my mother and sister, who I don't even really fully remember the conversation. They were just kind of I guess trying to witness to me. I remember there being a conversation about satanic imagery in rock music and heavy metal, because they knew that's what I listened to. I think they were also trying to use the example of, I can't remember which band it was, but there was a band, maybe it was from Slipknot? Was it Slipknot? I can't remember. But there was a member of a prominent metal band, and I really want to say it's Slipknot now, but I'm gonna fact check myself in case I'm wrong, who I guess got saved and then realized that the music he was making was satanic and evil, and how could he ever raise children and let them listen to this? So he couldn't be in the band anymore. I don't know that that's true. I don't feel like I ever heard about that outside of this conversation. So if it's wrong, I'm gonna put it up here. But it was just a lot of that. Really subliminal shit. It wasn't them outright saying you're going to hell, you need to change your ways. And I'm not mad at my sister. She was just as brainwashed as I was. But basically sat in the car for 5 hours with him listening to that, and I guess psychologically something in me just broke. Because then a week or two later, when we went to church one Sunday morning, I said the prayer. If you've never been to evangelical Baptist church, at the end of every single sermon, they do a call to Christ, where everybody puts their head down and the priest will say the prayer aloud. Oh my God, what's the one that I hate? We're not promised tomorrow, and you don't know what's gonna happen to you when you walk out that door. If you died today, do you know where you'd go? Just a gross, fear-mongering crap. Preying on somebody's anxiety that they could get in a car crash that's not even their fault. And then, oh, you're going to hell. Oh, God, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. As soon as people start saying shit like that, I tune the fuck out. Something in me snapped. I said the prayer and got saved. And I began preaching all the things that they were preaching. I was trying to get my friends to come to church. I was denouncing homosexuality to my friends who knew that I had previously been in a queer relationship and knew that I had identified as gay. I even had one person reach out to me on Facebook. He wasn't a close friend, but he was a classmate I was friends with on Facebook. Bless his soul, honestly. He did reach out to me and ask me what had happened, because he knew me previously to be so opposed to all these ideologies I was now spouting, and sharing I was sharing Bible verses. Oh my God, I was the worst. I was literally sharing those memes that were shout out to the girls that don't need to dress like a slut to get the attention of a man. Oh, y'all, it's embarrassing. But now I'm showing my shoulders again, so. And this classmate literally reached out to ask what had happened, and I had said that well, that's not who I am anymore. I'm this now. God, it's so cringe. It was so cringe the way I was behaving. And I feel really bad. Honestly, if you knew me in my last couple years of high school and you had to see that, I'm so sorry. Let me get back to the point. My classmate, I remember asking me, he said, "Do you believe this? And are you following this of your own accord?" Again, bless his soul. Truly, thinking about it now, it was not of my own accord. Because when I look back on those years of my life, when I got saved, when I did that prayer in the church, I don't think I had an actual coming to Christ moment. I don't really think it was this overwhelming emotional moment. I truly think my brain just went into survival mode. Because leading up until this point, again, I was a very angry teenager. I was pushing back against my mother and rebelling against the thought that I needed to go to church. I was getting into fights with her constantly. We were yelling at each other. It was just becoming a very chaotic environment in my household. And it literally was all stemming from the fact that I was being forced to go to church. And my mother was trying to enforce her religion on me. And I was trying so fucking hard to resist it. But I think something in my brain just kind of snapped and was just go with it. Let it happen. Give them, essentially give them what they want so that you won't be harmed anymore. Not like I was being physically abused or anything, but again, it was a very chaotic and unhappy place in my household because of how much strife this was causing between my mother and I, that I just kind of was I give. I give. Fine, I will do it. I think maybe in the moment, I thought that something might have happened. But looking back on that time, while I was very socially integrated, is I guess the word I'm looking for. I was very socially integrated into the church. I became active in the youth group. I went on the little church retreats. I was doing everything. I was preaching the words. I was doing everything right. But internally, nothing was happening for me. I would pray and I would talk to God. There were definitely moments where I was in the church praying, but it was almost like I was talking to a brick wall. just nothing was happening for me alchemically or spiritually with this. I think there was even a point when I got to college a couple years later, I actually rededicated because I felt like nothing had happened, nothing was working, and I was like backsliding back into the world, which I found my family, my found family, my squad, as we called ourselves when I got to college. Everybody has that like first found family that really like reshapes who you are as a person and the way that you view the world. I owe so much to that group of friends, honestly, I really do, because I did remain a Christian throughout my first or second year of college. I was trying to go to the on-campus Christian organization, and nothing was happening. I was not having these like moments, like people would get up in the church and like, again, this is evangelical church. So like if you have this like massively personal, wild spiritual moment, like you were encouraged to get up there and share it. So like I would watch like Sunday after Sunday, even like people going up to the pastor and like asking to share their story. So he'd give them the mic and they would like just be talking about something they've been struggling with in their personal life or in their family life, like something going on in their household and like how God told them this and he spoke to them in this way. And like I watched people make personal testimonies of how God was allegedly moving in their life, and then I was looking at my life and being like, well, he's not saying shit to me. So it kind of just became one of those things that I took to be performative. I was putting on a show for my family for the most part, up until my first or second year of college, when much to my family's dismay, if they ever see this video, because they're gonna say, college turned you into a dirty liberal. My mother actually thought that. My mother actually told me that one day. She said that it was my liberal professors that were turning me and changing the way that I thought about things. But it was about in 2014 when I started realizing that I was in fact bisexual. I remember sitting in my car waiting to go to my first class of the day, and I was texting one of my friends about it and like the feelings that I was having towards women. And she just kind of said like, okay, well maybe you're bisexual. And it was just like kind of one of those like, yeah, no shit, Maddie. The way she had said it was just kind of in a way that was like, okay, what's wrong with that? And bless that friend, because honestly, like there's just the way she talked about it was just kind of like, okay, well, maybe you're bi. Who cares? It's not a big deal. From that point on in that conversation and just onwards, I started wrestling with that in my head. Like, you know, maybe that part of me never went away. Maybe this is just who I've always been, and I've been trying to suppress it out of a need to feel performative for my family's religion. Now I'm in college. Now I'm an adult. You know, I was still living with my mom during college. We lived very close to campus, and it was just easier financially to not get a dorm. I did start going to the Gay Straight Alliance group on campus. And again, this was like 2014, 2015. So we were not talking about the same things we're talking about now. In the LGBT community, it's not the Gay Straight Alliance anymore. I think we changed our name a couple years after I started going. It was called the Gay Straight Alliance. That's just the time that we were in. And I made friends with a group of people. I'm gonna cry, literally. I think about them all the time. I love them so much still to this day. They are the most loving, kind people that I have ever met. And just the way I felt so accepted, felt that I belonged somewhere. Like I didn't have to change who I was to belong. I didn't have to change everything about my personality and who I was to like fit in. Like I could just be myself. That kind of love, I think, also really kind of helped pull me out of what I was, you know, indoctrinated in as a child and up until that point. Also at this time, it was 2014, so not to bring her up, but you know, 2014 is when 1989 came out, and Taylor Swift, you know, kind of came out and proclaimed herself to be a feminist. If we're gonna call it what it is, it's white feminism, and I think she's definitely still stuck in it, but that's a whole conversation for another day. We are not talking about that right now. But to paint the scene of what was happening in the world around me, that also kind of influenced me and my decisions to move away from the church. There was that whole rise of feminism and the feminist movement. Also the Black Lives Matter movement. If I have to be honest, I really think it was that moment that kind of sealed it for me and really made me realize that this evangelical Christian faith that I was raised in was not for me, because it was starting to show its ass as an organization that didn't really care about people in need and people who are suffering and oppressed, because members of my church were just showing their asses about how they felt about the Black Lives Matter movement. I observed some blatant racism at a Super Bowl party. I guess this was early 2015 then, if it was a Super Bowl party. I remember I was standing in the kitchen and I just remember overhearing everyone in the living room just essentially talking down on the entire movement. And then I remember trying to speak up and say something, and one of them threw the whole like, I don't care what color you are, I don't care if you're white, black, green, purple. Bitch, when you start throwing out the fucking skin tones that don't even exist, like, I'm so done. Thank you for outing you're a piece of shit, and thank you to all of them for confirming in that moment that I did not want to be a part of that fucking faith anymore. I was like, this is not a religion that is based around love. This is not a religion based around taking care of the poor and the needy and the oppressed, the foreigners. I was like, this is abhorrent, actually. Who the fuck are these people? And honestly, it was also all of those social events that were really changing something in me. Inherently, this was around the time that I really did start changing my social and political beliefs. You know, my mother's a evangelical Republican, and she has voted that way for her entire life. So that's the ideology I was raised in. Those were the political commentaries I was raised around, and I grew up. My brain began to develop a little more, and I was watching these injustices happen in the street, and I was watching people who weren't Christians give more of a fuck about what was happening than the Christians in this church that supposedly cared about the world and the people in it. Let me get off my soapbox, but you guys know what I'm talking about, because these people are still showing their asses to this fucking day about what they actually stand for. And it is not for love. It is not for Jesus. So that's kind of where the shift, I guess, where the rift between myself and the church started. My sister did also have her own kind of like moment with this around the same time as me, because I think we both maybe had a moment together where we were like, I don't really want to go to church anymore. I don't really want to. It might have been her who said it first to our mother, because then our mother had to sit us down. Mind you, we are both full-grown adults in college, but unfortunately we were still living in her household, and have a whole conversation with us about not wanting to go to church anymore. We were both over the age of 18 at this point. Like, I think I was like 19 or 20. You know, my sister I think was around 18, so like, you know, we're adults. She can't force us to go if we don't want to. I think she knew she was just not gonna be able to force us to, because like we could both drive at this point. We could both get in our cars and just leave. Like, she didn't have that control over us that she had in the past. Basically, the compromise we had to make was, if you don't want to go to church anymore, fine, but like you still have a curfew, and if you go out at night, you have to be home by this specific time, which I was like, okay. Like, I was not going out and like partying and doing like all this crazy stuff in college. Like, it just... So I finished out college, not going to church. You know, she did remarry to the man she is still married to. He is actually the father of the man who led the music in their church. So she like married into the church, essentially. Like, she's just there. I know my sister has definitely tried to have conversations with her, and it's not that I want to like give up on people, because I am very much a like redemption arc kind of person. I definitely think everyone can have a redemption arc and break away from the toxic, negative belief systems that they've been a part of, you know, become decent people. There's just something about when people hit a certain age and you just know that they are so set in what they believe that it's just like pulling teeth, honestly. It's just, it became an argument that I just couldn't keep investing time and energy into anymore. So yeah, I was no longer going to church, going about my merry way, developing my political views, who I was as a person, becoming my own person. I did deal with some of that like underlying guilt and shame that you feel when you do leave the church. If you have broken away from the church like I did, especially if it was one that was so, guilt tripping, manipulative in the way that the evangelical church is, you know that there is a hefty amount of spiritual guilt, even fear, that you deal with when you leave the church. You know, there were definitely moments where I would sit and be like, so like, what would happen if I died right now? Like, would I go to hell? Like, what do I even believe is gonna happen to me? Because I don't believe in what they're preaching, but what does that mean for me and like the afterlife and my soul? Like, what happens? Like, you know, so I was in this moment, I think, where I was just still trying to feel out what I personally believed in, but at the same time I was wrestling with that guilt and fear that comes with leaving the church. Religious trauma runs very fucking deep, and it can take a lot to undo and heal from, and this was just the early days of it. I was, you know, just every now and then I would get hit with those moments where I was like, man, what if I am going to hell? Like, what the fuck is gonna happen to me when I die? Like, I don't even know. I'm grateful for the friends that I had, the support system that I had, that, you know, continued to reaffirm that I had made the right choice, that I was a much better person and a much happier person now that I had left the faith, now that I had left the church. And so much so that in the spring following my college graduation, I actually performed a ritual. I love a ritual, man. One thing about me, I'm gonna do a ritual for it. And this was actually one of the first ones that I really did. I performed a ritual where I denounced my faith and like spiritually cut the cord to the Christian church. Like, I had my cauldron by then because I was definitely a pagan by this point. I started my pagan journey in about 2016. Since we're in the 2016 nostalgia trend, that's what I was doing 10 years ago. I was starting my pagan journey. Yeah, I severed my connection to the Christian church. I wrote it out, a little declaration on a piece of paper, and I burned that shit in my cauldron and just declared it right there in my bedroom of my mother's house. If she ever sees this, she will probably lose her mind that happened in her house, but that is what I did. And from that moment forth, I actually definitely, I think that was one of the more like profound spiritual moments of my life where I actually fucking felt something, because I was like, oh, it's gone. That's it, it's gone. It was such a like weight off my shoulder, like sigh of relief moment where I was like, oh my God, that's what it was. It was just this like spiritual cord that was just like, it's pulling me. It's like, it's stuck and I gotta cut it. You know, if you need to get some shit out of your life, do a fucking cord cutting, man. It is so nice. That was one of the first rituals I ever did, and it's one of the most important ones that I've ever done because that was definitely the turning point for me in my spiritual path. I had cut that cord. I made it clear to the universe. I made it clear to God. I don't denounce the existence of anything, you guys. Like, I believe every religion, every deity, I believe in everything, okay? I believe in cryptids. I believe in mermaids. You can't tell me they're not real. We haven't even explored 50% of our oceans. They are down there and they are pissed that we are using AI to take all their fucking water. What is this fucking video, man? I didn't say 2016 is when I started my spiritual journey for real. I started following Wicca, as you do when you get started. This is the first thing everybody goes to. It's the first thing we all know. I actually had a friend in college who was Wiccan and was telling me about her beliefs, showing me her Book of Shadows, and talking to me about how she worshipped a particular Greek god. And I remember being like, wow, that's so cool that like people still like believe in them and like they're not just like stories from like school. It's so cool that people like believe in this still and like worship them. That's wild. And I'm making that point very pointedly because there are a plethora of moments on my timeline that I think something was trying to happen for me, and I was just like, right over my head, didn't see it. That was the conversation that really like kind of got me into reading about Wicca and pagan beliefs and witchcraft. So I became a witch, I became a Wiccan. Very much realized Wicca was not for me. That was just, nope. I dropped that one real quick. I just, nope, didn't care for it, didn't fit for me. So I was like, okay, well, let's find something else. I was just operating as a solitary witch with just wasn't like worshiping a deity. I kind of was like toying with the idea of just like not having a deity. The Christian church had kind of soured that for me pretty like intensely, to the point that I was like, let me just hit this solo and see what happens. Like, you know, so I was just a solitary practitioner for a few years. When I did my denouncing of the church ritual, that was actually the time that I decided I was just gonna swing the entire opposite way, and I was a Satanist, baby. I decided I was a satanic witch. Shout out to Ghost, the band, for really reshaping my view of the devil. Oh, what year was this? This was early 2019? Yeah. I graduated college in December of 2018. Like that following January, like the next month is when I did this ritual. And that same month is when I discovered Ghost. Found them January of 2019. I moved up here to Virginia in July 4th actually. Oh my God. Hold on to that date. I know July 4th has a lot of shit connected to it, but hold on to the date July 4th for me, okay? July 4th is when I moved up here. And honestly, like, come on, look at that. You can pry my demonic popes from my cold dead hands, bitch. Got heavy into Ghost, and they really reshaped how I viewed Satan and just the devil as the eternal rebel, which is how I see him now. I see him as the first essential activist. He is the one who, you know, defied God. I loved the post somebody made about him on Tumblr forever ago. I know I was on Tumblr at this time, okay, you guys. But somebody had like made a post saying like he wasn't kicked out of heaven, he leapt. He leapt from the heavens to give knowledge to man, that we didn't have to just blindly worship this God that, you know, was just being a tyrant. That's like a massive paraphrase, I know, but like that's the gist of what it was saying. And I was just like, oh, that's fucking poetry, man. Like, oh, chef's kiss. That was such a chef's kiss phase of my life, honestly. Like, didn't end up working out. I didn't end up staying a satanic witch, but I do appreciate all of the like changes in my personal philosophy that I had from it. I think it served its purpose, and I'm gonna be honest, I mean, like, if the devil ever wants to hit me up, that phone line is still open. He is more than welcome to call me. I will pick it up so fast. So yeah, then I moved up here July 4th, 2019. I was still kind of leaning on the satanic witch thing. I wasn't super like active in my practice. I wasn't doing a lot of like witchy stuff. I've never really been a spellcraft kind of witch, if I'm being quite honest. Like, spellcraft is just not something I regularly do or feel like I really need to do. And I think I felt a lot of like guilt guilt about it because that's one of the first things you think when you hear like a witch. You know, you assume they're like doing some shit in a cauldron, you know, making little potions and stuff. That's just not me. I do love a ritual. I will commemorate things with ritual and fire. I love to burn shit. There are some things I like to do, some things I don't. So I think I was still kind of like struggling with feeling like a real witch because I felt like what I was doing wasn't, you know, in line with what you would call a witch. But I was still living with my family. I was definitely still identifying as a Satanist. I was trying to kind of get back in my spirituality. I remember having a little fling with like a spiritual white boy at this time. And I have to say it like that because, you know, if you've ever dated a spiritual white boy. You guys know I used to struggle with an eating disorder, content warning. And I have to say this because it's honestly the stupidest thing I have ever let myself be involved in. This man, first of all, I like something about a white man who like takes some Buddhist principles and like puts them in his work just doesn't rub me the right way. And I was in a very emotionally volatile place. Like I hadn't really been in a healthy relationship. This was before my 3-year relationship. So this man was just so problematic, y'all. I don't know. He was just very manipulative and narcissistic and like had that way with words that really just kept you hooked. This man. I cannot believe I let myself go through with this. This man thought he could exorcise my eating disorder out of me. So just for context, I was in the trenches of my eating disorder and I was not making an effort to recover. And I don't even remember why I felt like I should tell him that I was struggling with this, but he thought he could exorcise it out of me. Oh my God. It literally kills me every time I think about it. He was so serious, you guys. He was just like, you might feel something. And like, I felt like something leave my body, but I think it was just like negative energy. Like, I think he just did an energy cleanse on me. The thing is, I don't even think he really wanted to help me. I think he just wanted to like boost himself up as this like powerful spiritual practitioner. Like, I don't think he gave a fuck about actually helping me recover from this. He literally was doing it to like put a notch in his own spiritual belt. My path has taken me to some wild fucking places, all right? But if you encounter a spiritual white boy, maybe proceed with caution, all right, y'all? Don't let them talk you into shit. And then in 2021, I got into my long-term relationship of 3 years, which was, if you've been on my channel, you've heard me talk about it before. I still look back on it fondly. It is, God, oh my God, am I gonna cry? Am I gonna cry about it? I can't help it. That was a very good, healthy relationship. You know, this was an example of like how a partner was supposed to treat me. And I have nothing but love and respect for that person. I still wish him the best. I don't regret that relationship at all. It did a lot for me. I grew a lot in it. And because of it. So gold star Yelp review, nothing bad to say. The only thing that happened was because I was so, engrossed sounds like a negative term, but I guess because I was so focused on that relationship, I kind of just put my spirituality on the back burner. I've said it before. I mean, like, it happens sometimes. I think at this time too, I had moved into my apartment downtown. The environment and the circumstances I was in, I put it on the back burner. There were times where I tried to get back into it and I was mostly like pulling a tarot card or two for myself every day. There's evidence of this on this channel if you go back and watch some of my old vlogs. I have a few morning routine videos and just like vlogs where I did try to make pulling a card for myself like just like part of my regular routine and like try to get back into it. But I didn't really have like a defined spiritual practice or like beliefs. And then that relationship ended in the middle of 2024. There's a vlog about that on this channel too. I've commemorated every damn phase of my life on this channel at this point. Ended the relationship in 2024, and then in the fall of 2024, September to be exact, I moved into this very apartment that I'm sitting in right now. And that leads us, finally, to where I'm at now. So moving into this apartment was really monumental for me because it was the first apartment that I was living in where I didn't have a roommate. And not that like having a roommate was ever the problem, but you know, you're just like not comfortable like speaking out loud during rituals and cohabiting a space with someone, like at least not for me. Like I was just like, I was still too like anxious and like self-conscious. Like I didn't want my roommate to like be walking by my room and hear me like saying shit and be like, what the fuck? Even though she was kind of spiritual to a degree, like it wouldn't have been weird for her. You know, it was just something that I was just like, I don't really want anyone to like overhear. Just something about getting to live alone and being in your own space and like not have to worry about anybody else and like really getting to be by yourself and really kind of reanalyze what you believe and who you are is just like, not to do it again, but Chef's kiss, man. And actually, I do remember in late 2024, after I moved into this apartment, I actually started watching some of AnnMaddox's videos again, because I was like, oh my God, I can start my practice up again. So like, I was actually like actively going to start practicing again and getting back into my witchcraft and everything. And then winter of 2024 into spring of 2025, man. I have referenced it in videos, to put it this way and leave it at that. Winter of 2024 into spring of 2025, I got stuck in an incredibly toxic situationship with a manipulative, lying narcissist, as I now know them to be. And the damage that did was cataclysmic, as you guys all know, because I've talked about it before. Never really talked about the relationship itself, but yeah, I was in a situationship with a very manipulative person who did a lot of damage in here that I couldn't figure out how to undo for a really long time. I was in a really rough place mentally, just like literally trying to get out of it. And in the aftermath of that, I actually eventually just pulled back. I just fully pulled back from my life, from my friends, everything. I stopped going out. I didn't want to be social and do things anymore. I really just wanted to be alone with myself. And I've said it before, I was basically trying to rewire my brain. Like something felt so off kilter to the point that I was just like, I said it in a previous vlog. I was like, everything has to go. Throwing everything out, like throwing the bathwater out, throwing the baby out, like everything has to go because something broke in me, I guess. And it in a sense, it just kind of made me realize the way that I was moving and operating, especially in my romantic relationships, was not working. It was very unself-loving, and it was doing more damage to me than I was going to be able to handle if I kept moving like this and kept getting involved with these kinds of people. So I had my solo spiritual summer. I've called it that in other videos, where I was just by myself in this apartment. I was meditating every day and trying to, like really reconnect with my mental health and my spirituality, and get myself back into a good headspace. I started making art. If you guys see over there above my altar, I have a variety of collage art that I've made. I made all of those. The first one that I ever made is over there. It's right there, that one right there. I was picking up hobbies and just rediscovering myself. I was going to the beach like every fucking weekend that summer. I just took myself to the beach. I didn't care if it was like 2 hours away. I drove myself to the beach every weekend. Around this time, I decided I wanted to do a ritual. To no one's surprise. Basically started planning a massive like rededication ritual, sort of like rededicating myself to my craft and my spiritual path, but I also wanted to make it a rededication to self-love. And honestly, another shout out to AnnMaddox, because it was actually her witchy glow up video that gave me the framework for this entire ritual and like what I really wanted to do, what I wanted it to be. And I'm gonna pop that one down below for y'all so you can go check it out. I definitely have before, but I'm gonna put it down here too. Loved it so much. Love you, Kelly. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you'll ever see this, but God, love you, Kelly. And around this time that I'm planning this ritual and I'm going to the beach and everything, I noticed I was seeing the number 666 everywhere. And if you're not into angel numbers or numerology, it's fucking fine, okay? Things don't have to mean things if you don't want them to. Things mean things to me when they're a reoccurring thing that keep happening to me. And I just I kept seeing 666 everywhere. And I know some of y'all are like, you were a Satanist witch and you were worshiping the devil, so he's probably following you around. No, it's not Satan, okay? It was not Satan. I did have a moment where I briefly considered it. I was like, hold on now, like, why am I seeing this number everywhere? Like, what's going on? It just didn't feel like the devil, is all I'm gonna say. Didn't feel like I didn't feel that kind of a presence coming around me. Like every time I would see it, I just knew. I was like, it's not Satan. He is predominantly associated with that number. But I started thinking and I was like, well, there's gotta be somebody else. Like there's probably another deity associated with it maybe. And like, I hadn't really given any thought to worshiping deities or having a deity in my practice again. It again was something I kind of had an apprehension to due to the fact that I was indoctrinated into a religion that worships a very tyrannical sky daddy. Like it was something I never really thought I could do again. Like in a healthy, happy way. I thought like, that's just not for me. But I'd been seeing the number 666 everywhere. And so I finally just Googled what deity was associated with 666 besides the devil. And discovered it is also Aphrodite's number. And I don't believe in like the chosen one mindset. Let me like start off by that, okay? I don't believe that like the gods just like come down and like divinely pick you. You know, I don't believe this is like some Harry Potter chosen one shit, okay? They're not just like coming down being like, I choose you. But I do believe I have had some sort of predisposition to her. I think I just had moments on the timeline where I came in very close to her orbit, but then like it just like I veered off and did something else and like it just didn't happen. I think at the end of the day, I just wasn't ready because I was just focusing a lot on like my human relationships. I was focusing a lot on finding a earthly partner. I was like, I gotta find my partner, that person that I'm gonna settle down with and be with forever, because I think again, I had an inherent fear of being alone, and I was just so focused on not being alone in this earthly realm that like, I think I was roadblocking myself from really connecting with the divine or connecting with deity in any form, because I needed to let go of that focus on human relationships and like actually let them talk to me, let them bring the downloads, like let them actually speak and actually be still and listen because I definitely was not. July 4th, 2025, I told you keep that freaking date in your mind. I actually love that it happened that day because July 4th fucking sucks. I don't like the patriotism behind July 4th because this country was built off the backs of slaves and Native Americans. But now I have a different reason. I did my ritual. It was just a self-love ritual. I wrote out a rededication to my craft and to my self-love journey. And in that dedication, I did call on Aphrodite. And I asked her to be with me and witness the ritual and hear my declaration. And it has been 6, almost 7 months since that day. And I can definitely say this is somebody is literally talking in my hallway on the phone. What the fuck? It's been 6, almost 7 months now since I've been worshiping her. And again, I am now a self-declared Hellenic polytheist. I mean, you don't have to, it's nothing you have to like convert or like sign a contract, do a rite or anything for. Like it's you just start worshiping the gods, honestly. But it has been the most fulfilling spiritual journey I have ever been on. It's, oh my God, she has done so much for me in the last 6 or 7 months. And you know, love comes in many forms, but I do think self-love, especially in the people that worship her and are following her, I think she prioritizes that a lot. But it's honestly been the most beautiful journey that I've ever been on. Honestly, I could talk about it all day. I found new depths to my self-love that I just never thought I would be able to achieve in my life, like especially with the things that I had been through. I can honestly say I'm the happiest I've ever been. I admire the person I see when I look in the mirror. My mirror's literally right here, so I literally just looked at myself. I mean, but like, and just looking at myself, I'm so proud of the person I've become. I've become such a stronger person. I've learned to love myself fully for who I am. Man, she literally saved my heart from the fate of Ophelia. That is not an exaggeration. I actually made an entire Substack post. I will leave the link to it down below if you want to read it. I did say before, I think in a previous video, that the fate of Ophelia became a very like spiritual song for me. It was very spiritually adjacent for me now. She's why. In that Substack post, I kind of break it down line by line, how it directly correlates to my spiritual journey, to how I found Aphrodite and how she has changed my life so profoundly. So if you want to read something really sappy and cute, I highly recommend it. I really loved how that came out. I wrote that for her and I'm really proud of how it came out. In conclusion, because I've been talking for way too long, that is my story. That is how I escaped from this incredibly narrow-minded religious cult and found a path that has just fulfilled me in ways that I just could never have imagined. In ways that I never thought I would be able to experience fully because of the religious trauma I had sustained in the background that I came from. Wow, it is getting actually dark outside. Like look at how the lighting has changed since I started talking. I don't even want to look at the time. Oh my gosh. Talking way too long, you guys. I am not going to end it with a call for you to start worshiping Aphrodite. I'm not going to end this with a prayer to convert. There is no call to convert in Hellenism. I am not asking anybody to join me on this path. I'm not telling anybody that they need to join me on this path and believe the same things that I believe. Like, the gods don't ask me at the end of the day, like, how many people have you witnessed to? And I think for a while, when I was writing that Substack post and then also thinking about making this video, there was a part of me that was kind of like, ew, is this like a testimony? Because that's like what I was correlating it to. Like in the evangelical faith, when you get saved, like that's your testimony and it's your duty, your obligation to God to go out into the world and share your story and like, you know, bring people to Christ through it. So I think like part of me was kind of like, do I really want to do this? Because it feels kind of like, It's feeling like a testimony, but like, so what if it is? I'm sharing this story for anyone out there who maybe still deals with the scars of religious trauma, who maybe still feels some of that guilt and shame for leaving the church. And maybe you've been seeing some of this evangelical content online, and maybe like you're feeling some kind of societal pressure to join it because it's like, you're either with us, you know, and you're a ride or die for Jesus, or you are demonic and you're going to hell. That kind of black and white shit, I just don't like it, man. I don't like that shit. I don't like that attitude. I don't like that energy that they're bringing to the table, which is kind of why I decided to bring my own energy to the table with this video. So please just know it is not Christianity or nothing. There is not one path to enlightenment or deity, you know, and what works for one person is not going to work for everyone. I acknowledge that. Again, I'm not making this video to convert anyone to my path or get anyone to believe in my faith. Maybe you're watching this and you're like, Maddie, you are a fucking Looney Tune if you think you are communing with the Greek gods. You know, and that's your right. You do not have to believe the things that I believe. I have tried multiple paths, so I know that there are multiple different avenues of belief and spirituality that you can partake in. You know, my way is not the only way, and it's not the right way for everyone. You know, just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for someone else. You know, I just wanted to share this with anyone who maybe does deal with some of that residual trauma from the church, because again, I used to think that I could never worship deity again. I never thought I could have deities in my practice. I never thought I could worship male godhead again, and I've got two. I got Ares over here and Hermes is over there. It's just something I never thought I would be doing because of how much Christianity tainted the concepts of like worship and prayer for me. But I just thank my gods constantly for where I'm at now and how much Hellenism has like truly changed and redefined what religion and what worship and prayer is for me, you know, and like what it can look like outside of that like rigid structure that you get in Christianity where, you know, where you're self-policing your thoughts and you have to make sure you're not doing XYZ thing, or you're not like looking at certain things because that's demonic and it'll permeate into you and you'll be in hell before you know it. Like, it's just like, it's not. Religion doesn't have to be that. Religion can be whatever the fuck you need it to be to help you make it through this life, to make it every day in this world. And if you decide religion's not for you, you don't even have to do it. You don't have to be a part of it. You know, like I worship now to celebrate all that the gods are, how they show up in the world around me, just all the ways that they've changed my life, truly. Like, there'll never be enough words. They've truly changed my life so much. So if you do enjoy the idea of working with deity, but the idea of the Abrahamic God really like doesn't wet your whistle. I don't think I've ever used that. The Abrahamic God is really the only one that you've seen as accessible because it's the only one you've really been like exposed to the idea of. I encourage you to get out there and just research. That is how I found all of the paths, not just this one, but all of the paths that I've taken part in. You know, I maybe saw something about it online and said, let me give it a go. Let me see what that's about. Like, get out there and research. I know in the evangelical faith, you're dissuaded from research. You're dissuaded from looking at, you know, beliefs and opinions that don't look like your own. They very much like to live in an echo chamber. So I know you've probably been told differently, but it is okay. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to be curious. It's okay to research and look at other beliefs and people's opinions that are different from yours. All right, I literally had to go and charge my camera because I overwhelmed the battery. So let's finish this so I can go have some dinner. The overarching message I'm trying to leave you with here is your spiritual path is yours to decide, and no one else's. Not your family's, not your family's pastor, not your friends and peers, and not a fucking influencer on TikTok. Oh my God. I'm sorry, it still blows my mind that Christian influencers are a thing. That honestly just feels so like unbiblical to me. Like, I feel like Jesus would be like, that's such a worldly thing to do. Why are you? I'm not even gonna get into that. They don't get to define your spiritual path. That is for you. Whether it's spiritual, religious, anywhere in between, one way is not the right way for everyone. I refuse to believe that. I will never sit, and I will never again, because again, I did get brainwashed for a few years, okay? But we are free now, we're out. Being the person that I am now, who is a good person, I will never sit and tell someone that my way is the only way and the right way. The people who are saying that are doing unbelievable amounts of damage in our society right now. And you know, there are people out there who are maybe still insecure and unsure of who they are. I went through that. I just told you about how I spent years wondering who the fuck I was and what I even believed. And that is okay. You guys, those times in your life where you have no idea who you are and what you even want to believe, those are like some of the most beautiful moments because you get to experiment. You get to have fun. You get to try things and see what works for you, what jives with you and what doesn't. My problem is with the people who try to take advantage of that to further their right-wing evangelical propaganda. So if someone has told you on TikTok recently you are going to hell, you're not. Okay? Take it from me. because I literally had to sit through a attempted proselytization from my family literally just months ago. And you know what? I was waiting for them to do it, and they threw the question at me and said, do you know if you're going to heaven when you die? And I said, no, but I know I'm not going to hell either. And if I really felt like stirring the cauldron, I really could have been like, well, no, but make sure you put 2 coins over my eyes when I die so I can pay the ferryman on the way to Hades. And just watch the wheels in their heads spin out. Like, what do you mean? Like, another concept of the underworld? What? But that being said, I'm officially closing the laptop. We are done. I have shared my story with you. If you are still here, thank you so much for listening. Again, I know this is a little bit different of a video than I normally post, but it felt necessary. It felt necessary with where we are at in society right now. And honestly, as someone who's made it out of the evangelical faith, I do feel somewhat of a moral obligation to at least tell people about my experience and remind people that there is another way and you don't have to buy into them. Again, this has also just been about one particular sect of Christianity. There are many people who are Christians who are good people and believe in things like equality. I'm not knocking on any of them. If you are a good person and you are not pounding on your neighbor's door trying to force your views on them, I fuck with you. You're one of the good ones, and you are more than welcome at the table. I do not have a problem with Christians. I do not have a problem with anyone's spiritual path. Whatever fulfills you and gives you meaning to life, more power to you. If you did enjoy this video and you were vibing with anything that I said, or you just want to check out some of my other content, I post a lot of fun vlogs about my silly little life. I kind of just post whatever the hell I want right now at this point. If you want to hang out with me, feel free to stick around and join my little community here on the internet, because I am trying to build a wonderful little community here that is open to anyone of any background or religious faith, gender, sexuality, migrant status. Unless you are a fascist, you are not welcome here. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching and hearing me out. If you also are a survivor of the evangelical faith and have an experience to share, comment down below. Let's have a little survivor chat. Only if you're comfortable doing it, okay? Please don't feel like you have to share your trauma if you're not ready to, okay? Religious trauma is a very real thing. Don't feel like you gotta share your trauma if you don't want to. But if you do want to, if anything I said you related to because you went through the same thing, put it in the comments. We'll support each other. But with that being said, I'm gonna go. You guys have a great rest of your day or night, wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!